Good morning, students. Today we have going to have a class on alveolar bone. Human structure has both muscles and bone. We have around 640 muscles and 210 skeletal bones. Today we are going to see about the bone, which is called as alveolar bone. Alveolar bone and basal bone forms the part of the maxilla and the mandible. So today's class we will discuss about the definition of the alveolar bone. What is the alveolar bone components? How does the alveolar bone get develops? What are the blood supply of the bone and cells of the alveolar bone structures and its clinical applications, alveolar bone appearance in the X-ray, and what are the physiological changes associated with the alveolar bone and the pathological changes associated with the alveolar bone, usually in periodontal disease. So alveolar bone, coming to the definition, alveolar bone is the part of the maxilla and the mandible that contains the alveoli and the sockets of the tooth and supports the tooth. The alveolar socket is the cavity within the alveolar bone in which the root of the tooth is held by the periodontal ligament. If the teeth are lost, the alveolar bone process disappears. In this picture, we can see the blue color which shows the alveolar bone. So when we zoom the alveolar bone consists of alveolar bone between the roots of the adjacent tooth is called as interseptal septum. We are going to see the parts of the alveolar bone. The alveolar bone between the roots of the multi-rooted tooth is called as interradicular septum. This total unit is called as cribriform plate, in which you can see the interradicular septum and the interdental septum. This is the cribriform plate. So coming to the bone, the anatomically we don't have any difference between the alveolar bone and the supporting basal bone. An imaginary line at the root apex separates the alveolar bone and the basal bone. The alveolar bone develops within the formation and the eruption of the tooth. When the tooth are congenitally missing, the alveolar bone does not develop. So it is the alveolar bone is not a regular bone, it is a supporting bone of the tooth. So if there is no tooth, there will be no alveolar bone. The maintenance of the alveolar bone is dependent on the presence of teeth. When the teeth are lost, it gradually resorbs. Coming to the development of the alveolar bone, near the end of the second month of intrauterine life, the outer and the inner plates of the body of the maxilla and the mandible grow in a vertical direction, forming a groove that is open towards the oral cavity. The tooth germs are contained in the groove. Gradually, the bony septa develop between the adjacent tooth germs. The actual alveolar process formation is associated with the root formation and the eruption process. With the root formation, the bony crypt is transformed into socket. In fetal life, the alveolar bone is formed like the rest of the skeleton of the woven bone. You can see the structure of the alveolar bone. We have seen the parts of the alveolar bone and the alveolar bone, and we have seen about the supporting cortical bone. Now we see the structure of the alveolar bone and the supporting bone. When you see macroanatomically, we can see the alveolar bone proper and the supporting alveolar bone. So the alveolar bone, you can see the U-shaped drawn in the tooth, which is the part of the alveolar bone, and the bony lacunae and the inner and outer cortical plates form the supporting alveolar bone. Coming to the alveolar bone proper, the alveolar bone proper is a thin layer of bone that surrounds the root and gives attachment to the periodontal fibers. It is perforated by numerous minute foramina called as Oakman's canals that carry the blood vessels and the nerves into the periodontal ligament. That is why it is called as cribriform plate. The term lamina dura is given to the layer of the bone that forms the dense radio-opaque appearance we see in the X-ray. We can just discuss about it later in the class. So this is the lamina dura. Coming to the histology of the alveolar bone, the alveolar proper is made up of bundle bone. The bundle bone is the bone which adjacent to the periodontal ligament where the principal fibers are attached. And then we have the compact bone where we can see a parallel lamellae and the Avasian system. This bundle bone which forms a very high strength bone where the sharpish fibers get attached. So the sharpish fiber also is get calcified. So the bundles of the principal fibers are inserted into bone as sharpish fibers. The bundle bone significance is it is the bone of attachment. It varies in thickness according to the functional demands. Always it is thicker in the distally than mesially. Next we come up to the supporting alveolar bone. The supporting alveolar bone consists of main two parts. One is called as cortical plate and the spongy bone which fills the area between the plate and the alveolar bone proper. The cortical plate. The cortical plates of the alveolar process are continuous with the labial and the lingual plates of the maxilla and mandible. We can see the dissection section of the cortical plate where we can see the labial cortical plate and the lingual cortical plate. Generally, they are thinner in the maxilla than in the mandible. In the region of the anterior tooth of the both jaws, the cortical plate are very thin. We see the some of the clinical features of the cortical plate. In the region of the anterior tooth of the both jaw, the cortical plates are very thin and fused directly with the alveolar bone with no spongy bone in between. But when you see in the premolar and the molar region, it is very thick, and we can see the lingual plate is thicker than the in the region of mandibular third molar. The lingual plate again become thinner. Next, we see about the cancellous bone. It is found between the alveolar bone proper and the cortical plates, and between the alveolar bone proper of the adjacent tooths. This degree of development is related to the force of mastication. It is absent in the anterior region of the jaws where the outer wall of the tooth is very thin. So the cancellous bone is very sensitive to variation in functional forces. The increase in functional forces leads to the formation of new dense bone. Decreased function lead to the decrease in the volume of the bone. This can be observed in the cancellous bone of teeth which have lost their antagonist. Here the cancellous bone around the alveolus is reduced and the trabeculus bone become less numerous and very thin. So we have seen about the bone structure where we have seen the parts of the alveolar bone. Then we have seen the what is alveolar bone proper and what are the supporting bone. Where we can see the alveolar bone proper, which is a tooth supporting bone, where we can see about the uh, bundle bone and everything. Where and the supporting bone, we have seen about the cortical bone and the cancellous bone. Next comes the important called this covering of the bone. We can see the periosteum of the bone and the endosteum of the bone. Endosteum is the inner covering of the bone, where the periosteum is the outer covering of the bone. The periosteum has two layers. One is inner layer, which is attached to the bone, and the outer layer, which is outer to the soft tissue. And you can see the compact bone and the cancellous bone. You can see the trabeculae in the cancellous bone is more wider, and you don't see any trabeculae in the compact bone. And we can see the canals and blood for transversing the blood vessels. So the tissue covering the outer surface of the bone is called as periosteum, whereas the inner tissue lining the internal bone cavity is called as endosteum. The periosteum consists of inner layer composed of osteoblasts surrounded by osteoprogenitor cells which have the potential to differentiate into osteoblast, and an outer layer rich in blood vessels and nerves and composed of collagen fibers and fibroblasts. The endosteum is composed of a single layer of connective tissue. The inner layer is the osteogenic layer and the outer layer is fibrous layer. These are some of the anatomical landmarks of the mandible, where we can see our external oblique ridge and the external oblique ridge and the internal oblique ridge, and we can see the alveolar bone and the cortical bone. So thus we have seen about the what is an alveolar bone and what is the alveolar bone proper and the supporting bone. Alveolar bone proper, what are the parts of the alveolar bone and what are the it is made up of. And we have seen about the cortical plates and the supporting bone. Now we see about the radiographic appearance of the alveolar bone. Radiographically, the alveolar bone proper or the lamina dura is seen. We can see a white line in the region. This line is called as lamina dura. It appears as a radiopaque line adjacent to the root and separate from it from the radio. This has very important clinical significance. This part of the lamina dura only supports the tooth, and in between the tooth and the lamina dura we have the periodontal ligament. So this is the clinical significance of the lamina dura. And we can see the supporting bone or bony tubercle, in which we can see two types of bone. We can see a dense bone, and we can see a interdental or interradicular bone, which is delicate and it is irregularly arranged. This type is more seen in maxilla. So we can see the dense bone, and we can see a type 2 bone which is little porous. Next we come about the bone cells. What are the cells which forms the alveolar bone or any bone? These are the osteoblast. Osteoblast are mononucleated cells that synthesize collagenous and non-collagenous bone matrix. It exhibits a high level of alkaline phosphatase on the outer plasma membrane. Next is osteoclast. As the osteoblasts form the bone matrix, they get entrapped within the matrix. They secrete are called as osteocytes. Embryonic bone and repair bone shows more osteocytes where they are formed rapidly within the bone matrix. The osteocytes reduce in size, creating a space around it is called as osteocytic lacuna. So after the osteoblast get forms to a bone, it the the matrix, the osteoblast cells entrap between the bone. This type of osteoblast getting entrapped between the bone is called as osteocytes. This place acts as a lacuna. So when there is a resorption or when there is bone loss happening, this osteocytes will deliver the osteoblast and the new bone get formed. Then we see the osteoclast. Osteoclasts are the cells responsible for bone resorption. They are derived from hematopoietic cells of the monocyte macrophage lineage to form the mononuclear cells. Resorbing surface of the alveolar bone shows resorption concavities in which lies the osteoclast. So this osteoclast resorb the bone, and osteoblast forms the bone. So we can see the new bone formation, where you can see number of factors are responsible to formation of osteoblast, and this osteoblast get entrapped in the matrix and forms a new layer of bone, and with the osteoclast which forms due to multiple factors which causes resorption. So it's a continuous process of formation and resorption in the human body. So this process of continuous formation and resorption is called as bone remodeling. So what is a bone remodeling? Bone formation occurs throughout the life by a process called as bone remodeling. During bone remodeling, bone formation is usually preceded by bone resorption. The bone formation is due to the tension pull of the periodontal ligament, and the bone resorption is due to the pressure of the periodontal ligament. So when there is a bone formation, there is due to tension and periodontal fibers, osteoblast gets formed and forms a new bone. But when there is a due to the pressure of the periodontal ligament over pressure, then the osteoclast will start forming and it will resorb the bone. So while the process by which the overall size and the shape of the established is referred to as bone remodeling. So we have a physiological bone modeling and we have pathological bone modeling. In physiological remodeling, the bone formation and the resorption will be in equal phase. But in pathological condition, the bone resorption will be very fast and the bone formation will be very less. So we have seen about the parts of the alveolar bone, and we have seen about the alveolar bone radiographic features, and we have seen about the cells of the alveolar bone and what are the role of the alveolar bone cells and we have seen about the bone modeling and the remodeling. So thus we have seen about the physiological what is normal condition we are seeing. We can see a normal physiological movement of the tooth. We can see a mesial drift and the occlusal movement. And during the orthodontic movement, the alveolar bone is under the remodeling process. After orthodontic undergo modeling process. So these are the physiological movement. We have occlusal movement and the mesial drift. Occlusal movement, when there is no opposing tooth, the tooth slowly moves upwards or downwards. You can see a supra-eruption of tooth because there is no tooth in the lower region. So the upper tooth moves towards the lower. This process is a normal condition. This is called as occlusal movement. Same way, the tooth tilts towards the mesial direction. It is called as mesial drift. This is also a normal condition. It's a physiological tendency of all the tooth to move in the midline. So we can see a alveolar bone which supports the mesial drift of the tooth. Next, we come to the blood supply of the alveolar bone. Maxilla receives the blood supply from the superior alveolar artery, and the mandible receives the blood supply from the inferior alveolar artery. So we have seen about the alveolar bone, all the parts of the alveolar bone, and we have seen the what is alveolar bone proper and what is supporting bone. Then we have seen about the cells which forms the alveolar bone, and we have seen about the radiographic features, and then we have seen about the physiological movements of the tooth. We can see the occlusal movement and the mesial drift, and then we have seen about the blood supply of the alveolar bone. Now we go to the pathological changes associated with the alveolar bone. First pathological changes is called as fenestration and dehiscence. In this picture, you can see fenestration and the dehiscence. Fenestration is a satellite resorption of bone, so the tooth surface will be visible. Dehiscence is a continuous from the marginal bone. The bone resorption happens gradually. That is called as dehiscence. When there is only a satellite resorption of bone, it is called as fenestration. And when there is a continuous resorption of bone, then it is called as dehiscence. This picture, this is called as fenestration, and this is called as dehiscence. So what in the maxilla, the outer cortical plate is perforated by Volkmann's canal and may show defects in the posterior region. Larger defect exposing the root portion is called as fenestration. Coming to the definition, the larger defect exposing the root portion is known as fenestration. If the defect includes the coronal alveolar crest, it is called as dehiscence. Next, we go to the patterns of bone destruction. Apart from fenestration and dehiscence, we have some pathological like conditions like periodontitis and dental tooth decay, which causes and trauma from occlusion also causes bone resorption. We see various patterns of the bone destruction. When there is a bone destruction is uniform and bone is reduced in height and bone margin remains perpendicular to the suture. You can see the bone loss happened here, and the bone loss is uniform. It is perpendicular to the other bone loss between the two. So when there is a bone loss happening and it is perpendicular to the tooth, it is called as horizontal bone loss. Next, we have the vertical bone loss. Vertical or angular defects are those that occurs in the oblique direction. So you can see the vertical bone loss where we can see the bone loss happening in vertical direction. It is not uniform. Here there is full bone, here there is bone, and suddenly there is a dip in the bone. This type of defect is called as vertical bone loss. Vertical or angular bone loss are those that occurs in an oblique direction, leaving a hollow out through in the bone along the side of the root. The base of the defect is located apical to the surrounding bone. So this vertical bone defect is classified as three types. One is three-wall bony defect, two-wall bony defect, and one wall bony defect. So we can see the vertical mill where we can see the this is called as three wall bony defect, and this is called as two wall bony defect, and this is called as one wall defect. So in this three wall defect can see three walls are present and one wall is missing, so it is called as three walled defect. And this in this picture we can see one wall and two wall, and we can see two walls missing, so it is called as two wall defect. And in this we can see only one wall is present and the other two walls are missing, so it is called as one wall defect. So this type of defect is angular. So this type of three wall defect can be easily plugged in with some graft materials, and we have success rate of regeneration. This type of defect we can place a graft and we can place a membrane over that region and we can close the defect. But this type we can't place a graft. This is having poor prognosis, this type of defect. So this is called as three wall bone defect, this is called as two wall bone defect, and this is called as single wall defect. The the good prognosis is with the three wall defect and the poor prognosis with the single wall defect. Next, we see about the osseous crater. Osseous crater or concavities in the crest of the interdental bone confined with the facial and the lingual wall. Craters that have been found to be made up of one third of all defects and about two-thirds of all mandibular defects. So you can see a normal bony pattern. Here we can see a crater formation. This may be due to the plaque accumulation and calculus absorption and causing the bone resorption. And buttressing bone formation. Buttressing bone formation is sometimes occurs in the attempt to buttress bone triple weakened by the resorption. When it occurs within the jaw, it is called as central buttressing bone formation. When in the external surface, it is known as perivascular. So when there is a resorption, the new bone get formed, but the new bone will not be a strong enough bone. It will have a sudden bulging of bone contour. That type of bone is called as buttressing bone formation. This type of buttressing bone formation causes bulbous counter. See this picture, we can see a thick bone and we see a defects. So this type of thick bone will accumulate plaque and calculus inside this defect and causes a periodontal disease. So this bulbous bone should be trimmed to have a uniform pattern of bone. Next is reverse architecture. For a normal architecture, the bone should be higher in the level of cementum enamel junction, and there will be thicker bone in this region, and there is a thinner bone in the apical region. But when the architecture changes and when there is no bone in the cervical region and there is thick bone or normal bone in the only in the apical region, it is called as reverse architecture. These defects are produced by loss of interdental bone, including the facial or the lingual place, without concomitant loss of radicular bone, so thereby reversing the normal architecture. Such defects are more common in the maxillary condition. Next, we see one of the important bone loss pattern, which is called as ledges. See in this, we can see a ledges. Ledges are this type of sharp peak in the bone. We can see a resorption and we can see a sudden plateau-like bony margin. This plateau-like bone margin accumulates plaque and calculus, so causing a bone resorption in the neighboring regions. Next is furcation. Furcation is happens when there is a bone loss happening between the two roots. So the term furcation refers to the invasion of the bifurcation and the trifurcation of the multi-rooted teeth by periodontal disease. The mandibular first molar are the most common site for furcation. Next, we see about some of the systemic disorders which causes the alveolar bone loss. One is osteoporosis. Next is hyperparathyroidism. Third is leukemia and Langerhans. In this condition, we have bone loss happening in the alveolar bone. So we see some of the overview of the class. This is the overview of the class. So maxilla and the mandible will have alveolar bone proper and the basal bone structures. This alveolar bone proper have parts of cribriform plate, interradicular bone, and the interseptal bone. Interseptal bone is between the two tooth, and the interradicular bone is between the two roots of the tooth. This cribriform plate will have all this interseptal bone and the interradicular bone, and then the basal supporting bone, which is made up of cortical plate and the cancellous bone. So maxilla and the mandible consist of alveolar bone proper and the basal bone. Next, we see the physiology. We have seen the physiological changes. We have seen about the bone cells. We have seen about the X-ray features. Along with that, we can see the physiological changes. When there is a active bone formation and the bone resorption happens normally when there is equal amount of bone formation and equal amount of resorption. Maintaining a balance is a physiological changes called as bone remodeling. But when there is a severe bone resorption happening and bone formation doesn't happen, then it comes under the pathological changes. The pathological changes we have seen about the fenestration, where there is a satellite defect of the bone where the root surface will be visible. That is called as fenestration. When there is a bone loss which happens from the marginal bones towards the root, it is called as dehiscence. Then we have seen about the bone loss patterns. We have seen about the horizontal bone loss and the vertical bone loss, and in which we have seen about the three-wall defect, where the three walls are present and one wall is missing. Two-wall defect, where we have two walls present and two walls defect, and we have seen the one wall defect which has three walls missing. So these are the vertical bone loss and the horizontal bone loss. And then along with that, we have seen about the craters, where we see the bone U-shaped bone defect happening, and we've seen about the ledges, which is a sharp bone growth happening in the tooth region, and we seen about the bulbous bone, which is caused by the buttressing bone effect. Then we have seen about the furcation and the reverse architecture, where the reverse architecture we have seen about the root portion will have bone and the cervical portion will not have the bone. So this type of reversing the normal architecture is called as reverse architecture. And the furcation, we have seen the bone loss happening in the between the two roots. We have grades of furcation. We have grade 1 furcation, grade 2 furcation, and the grade 3 furcation. Grade 1 furcation is a mild furcation, grade 2 furcation is a moderate, and grade 3 furcation is a severe form of furcation. So this is the overview of our class. Hope you students all understood the class. Thank you. These are my reference for the class.